Aniruddha, you can start.
Namaskar. ग्लोबल चेंबर ऑफ सारस्वत एंटरप्रेन्युअर्स म्हळ्यार सारस्वत चेंबराचे तर्फे तुमकां सगळ्यांक माये मोगाचो येवकार. आयच्या कार्यावळीत आमकां सगळ्यांक बाब मिथुन कामत हांचे कडेन संवाद साधपाची संद लाभल्या. सुरवातीक सारस्वत चेंबरा विशीं 2 उतरां सांगता. आमच्या सारस्वत समाजाच्या कितल्याशाच भाव भयणांनी वेगवेगळ्या व्यवसायांनी खूब नामना जोडल्या. तशेंच आमच्यो कितल्योश्योच संस्था आसा ज्यो खाजगी आनी सामाजीक क्षेत्रांनी वावर करतात. पूण आमच्या समाजाक वेवसायीक पातळीचेर एकठांय हाडपी अशी संस्था नाशिल्ली. ही पोकळी भरून काडपाक संकल्प घेवन फुडें सरिल्ले आमचे वांगडी बाब सिद्धार्थ सिंगकार, अमित पंडित, प्रसन्न रेगे, अजित गुंजीकर, काम केल्ले खूब लोक आसात. सगळीं नांवां हांव घेना, पूण इतलें सांगता आपापल्या वेवसायांत बरेच यश मेळिल्ले हे तरणाटे. हांच्या 2 वर्सांच्या कश्टांची फळां आज आमच्या समोर आसात. ग्लोबल चेंबर्स ऑफ सारस्वत एंटरप्रेन्युअर्स ह्या नांवान सेक्शन 8 कंपनी 2019 साली स्थापन करून खुबश्यो कार्यावळी बरे तरेन घडोवन हाडल्यो. रोखडीच कोविड महामारी आयली आनी फुडें कार्यक्रम ठप्प पडटले काय हो असो विचार आयलो. पूण कोविडान एके तरेन संस्थेचो फायदोच करून दिलो. जे आमी वर्साक 4 कार्यक्रम करता आशिल्ले ते ऑनलायन आशिल्ल्या कारणान आमी 20-25 कार्यक्रम करपाक पावले. कार्यक्रम ऑनलायन आशिल्ल्या कारणान वेगवेगळ्या देशांतले आनी शारांतले वक्ते लाभले आनी कार्यक्रम हजारांनी लोकांपर्यंत पावले. येत्या 12 तारखेक सारस्वत चेंबराक 2 वर्सां पुराय जातात. ही आमची 2 वर्सांची काणी. इंग्लिशीन आनी मराठीन तुमी आयकल्याच आसतली, पूण आज कोंकणीन सांगपाक मेळ्ळी. Moving ahead with the program today, we have with us Shri Mithun Kamath, founder of the Tantalum Academy. Today's host is Ms. Swati Naik. Swati is a chartered accountant with over 9 years experience. She worked with ICICI Bank for 7 years in Special Investigation Unit and has worked as a senior manager in fraud prevention and corporate fraud investigation. Currently, she is working as an investment officer with the Goa Investment Promotion Board, where she promotes investment and facilitates the setting up of new business units in Goa. Over to you, Swati, to introduce Shri Mithun and take over the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Anirudh. A very good evening to all the participants. Creativity and innovation is what makes a difference and is the key to success in any kind of business. So is in education industry. Over the last few years, there have been tremendous changes in education system. What is sought by people from education is not just learning the subject, but learning skills and more focused on practical application of the concepts. Our topic today is emerging opportunities in convergence of education, technology, gamification, and industry. Before I introduce today's speaker, I request all the participants to put themselves on mute so that we don't have any disturbance during the session, and put off the videos. In case if there are any questions in the session, you can enter them into the chat box and you can take them at the end of the session. Our speaker today is Mr. Mithun Kamath, founder of Tantalum Academy. Mr. Mithun has set up and scaled skill development organizations in 25 countries, spanning Asia, Africa, Middle East, and Latin America. In his career spanning 23 plus years, he has been an entrepreneur, a CEO, and has worked for companies such as NIIT Limited, TVS Motors, Standard Chartered Bank, Bharti Group, and GEMS Group. He has been a speaker at several international forums organized in Argentina, South Africa, Kenya, Rwanda, Malaysia, India, and UAE. In 2017, he was awarded Qadat Al-Tagir Award for Excellence in Skill Development globally by UAE India Business Council. His career provided him with deep insights and trends into the future of education and its convergence with gamification and technology. This led him to set up Tantalum Academy along with his co-founder Sandhya Raghunath. Sir, it is an absolute honor to have you here for the session. I request you to proceed with the session.
Thank you so much, Swati, for that very nice introduction. Also, thanks so much to the Saraswat Chambers for providing me this opportunity to walk people through my ideas. And thanks to all the participants for joining me today. So Swati has already mentioned the subject that I'm going to speak on. So to give this some structure, I have created a small presentation which I'll share with you. And as we go through this discussion, I will walk you through this presentation. I'm sharing my screen now. So as I see it, and that's the idea that I'm presenting to all of you today, is that there is a convergence that is taking place between what is generally seen as different industries: education, technology, gamification, and industry per se. A grand convergence is taking place. So that is what I'm going to present to you today as we go along. How I have structured this is that first, let me take you through the key drivers of change in each of these different industries. What's happening in education, what's happening in gamification, and so on. And how these trends will converge into creating a completely new education ecosystem from what it is today. And this new ecosystem will actually create a lot of opportunities for educators themselves, for investors, and for anyone who is interested in this field. It'll throw up a bunch of opportunities. So that I will cover at the end. So let me start with what are the key drivers of change in education first. I think the biggest change that's taking place is actually what to teach. I mean, we are all used to subjects, right? I mean, all through school and colleges, we are all used to subjects, which are history, geography, political science, economics, whatever else. But the emphasis has shifted now considerably world over. I mean, I think the government of India in 2020 with the new education policy sort of set this ball rolling in India as well. But this trend has started much earlier with forums like the World Economic Forum, for example. The World Economic Forum, as many of you might know, is one of the largest congregations of employers in the world. And they had almost 2-3 years ago set out what skills are important in the future in a report called The Future of Jobs. Also, they had laid out a new vision for education in which they had laid out how these new skills have to be taught. So similarly, many organizations have done significant amount of work and published reports in this area as to what needs to be taught to our young people. And if you look at all these reports, the emphasis is on what you see on my slide. So, the focus needs to be on developing children and students in 4 distinct areas. I would request you to look at the slide on the left with the diagram. There you see at the core is the individual. So the help develop the individual's own emotional competencies such that they are able to deal with the ever-changing world that's around them. So things like empathy and compassion and confidence and ambition, things like that are very individual to people, and therefore that needs to be focused on in education first. The second is how do people interact in social circles? How do they build relationships? Workplaces, for instance, now are global. People from all over the world are working together these days. So in such cases, being able to work with other people, build relationships, meaningful relationships become very, very important. Things like collaboration, being able to communicate properly, persuade others, negotiate with others, these become very, very critical. The third area is work related. Teach young people skills that they can actually take to a workplace straight away. Employers don't have to teach them. They are ready to be employed, or if they want to start on their own, that is all taught to them very early on. And the last but not the least, making them ready for society and communities, make them contributors to societies, not focus on just themselves and making money, to develop a more holistic understanding amongst them that they also have to be successful, but at the same time also have to contribute to their societies and communities. So there is a lot of emphasis on this, and therefore the recommended what to teach is things like socio-emotional skills amongst people, values, social skills, business skills, technical and vocational skills. In fact, socio-emotional skills in itself. If you look at the industry, how big it has become, it is expected to be almost an $8 billion industry in the next 4 to 5 years. Just this, teaching just this. So education systems will change and are already changing to teach this to our young people. The second big trend in education is to make it engaging. All of us, I'm sure, remember going to school with a great bit of reluctance, sitting through classes the whole day. That needs to change. We all know, how boring class, you don't learn anything. So if you are doing something interesting, you tend to learn more. So we all know that instinctively. So that's what's being recommended, that make education very, very engaging, make it interesting for students, such that they want to come into a class and learn. So things like gamification, which I'm going to talk about today, but also people are using music and theater and arts and when I was in South Africa, I was aware of a camp in which a 21-day camp in which students would be taken, completely cut off from the rest of the world, and 21 days they will live in a camp in a natural environment where they have to fend for themselves. Or travel, children are taken, many schools these days are doing that, taking them on international trips so that they get to understand other cultures and how other people are, or even making them do social work. So there are a lot of things pedagogically which are being looked at to make education more interesting. So these are the two big trends: what needs to be taught and how it has to be taught. Both are going to undergo significant change and are undergoing significant change as we look at it right now. Then let's come to the second area, which is gamification. All of you, may be familiar with gamification. I'm sure many of you have played games. Even Candy Crush is a game which I'm sure many of you play on your mobile. So that's mainstream gaming. According to one estimate, almost 2.5 billion people today play games. And last year itself, $5 billion was spent on purchase of games. And this is expected to grow to 260 billion in the next 5 years. So just imagine the size. Last year was 5 billion. It is expected to be 250 billion in the next 4 to 5 years. So gaming is exploding worldwide. People really are playing a lot of games. But what a little known area is educational gaming. So educational gaming is where you design games to teach something to people. And this is a nascent area. Not much is happening, but there is quite a few starts in this area and a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to set up and build companies in this space. This itself is expected to be an $8 billion industry in the next 3 to 4 years. And finally, esports. Esports itself, it was started about 2 to 3 years ago. It's already a $1 billion industry. It is expected to be overtaking everything that we know, whether it's La Ligas or whether it is a Cricket World Cup. All the big events that we are used to, esports is likely to take that over in the next 4 to 5 years. Careers can be made. Many universities across the world have now started a esports career, a course where children can actually learn to play games and join a franchise, an esports franchise. And these children, if they're good gamers, can earn money, in terms of sponsorships. I think last year the biggest sponsorship ran into a few $1 million for the best gamer. So the prize money is also exploding. People who win these online games can earn multiple millions of dollars in prize money. So esports is a big thing, and it is growing. So my point here is that gaming overall is exploding worldwide, and the reason it is exploding is people love it. People love to play games, and it is very, very engaging. And it is natural that if education is looking to become very engaging, somewhere it has to connect with gaming. The third big trend is technology. All of you are familiar with technology, I'm sure. This is platform that we're coming on, and it is a technological platform. But this is now already old. Most technology platforms that you're familiar with is just aggregators. Either there is a lot of content or you can use them for things like this. But what's actually happening is how can we get machines to make people learn? So for instance, there are artificial intelligence engines that are being developed, which can actually track students and what they are learning without the intervention of a teacher. So the machine will take over. When the student is learning, the backend analytics will be understanding what the student is learning. There is facial recognition software, which if you are watching the screen, can pick up what exactly you're watching and what is it that you're learning from your eye movement. Right? So very sensitive facial recognition software is being developed. There are adaptive intelligent engines, which is, depending upon how I am learning a particular course, it automatically becomes a little harder or a little easier, all by itself without the intervention of anyone from outside. Right? So that's adaptive engines. Or there are algorithms. If somebody says, Swati comes on board and says, look, I want to become a social media influencer, what should I learn? The platform would advise her, right? Saying, take this courses at this levels. And and Swati can do that and become a social media influencer. So everything automated, everything run by intelligent engines at the back end. So there's a lot going on at the back end of technology. So far, none of this is easy to deliver because it's quite expensive right now. But over the next 2 to 3 years, much of this will now become publicly accessible and easy to implement. And we'll begin to see that very soon. In fact, EdTech itself, technology itself, is expected to be a $10 trillion industry by 2030. 2030 is just around the corner, just 9 years. 10 trillion, just imagine that money. Okay, so if any of you are looking to be in this space, this is the space. Developing some of these things can really get you the big bucks. Even those who are looking for new careers, interesting careers, can look at, for example, gamification. Huge opportunities there, or even in the education technology space, there's huge opportunities here. All of this is happening because the industry also is changing. Jobs that didn't exist before are suddenly the new trend. There is a job now called social media influencer, which I just talked about. Social media influencers earn a tremendous amount of money, and there's no course right now which teaches you to become a social media influencer. Similarly, there is a YouTuber. I haven't come across an easy course which teaches you how to do, become a YouTube star. So there are new jobs that are out there which didn't exist before, and there are no courses to teach people that. Industry is changing so fast that coding now can happen on its own. There are coders may not be required in the next few years. I don't know how many people know that. Okay, so people who learn coding, I keep telling them, look, that will become an irrelevant skill in the next 4 to 5 years. What is required is people who can actually think about what to create rather than code. Machines will code, but machines can't think like us, right? The aspect of creativity that humans have, that a machine will not have. So there is a huge emphasis on visual arts, for instance. Technology companies are looking for people from visual arts background, artists, creative people. So they're looking for people like them because they can imagine what a typical technical guy cannot imagine.
On your side, man. Okay.
Sorry, we just had a small interruption there. We'll carry on. Similarly, all of you are familiar. I think all of you work in this environment. There are online global workplaces now. I work with a team which is even in my company, which is dispersed all over the world. So this has become very, very common now, and you need to learn how to work with other people. But think about a typical child who's not used to working with others, who's trained all his life to do well individually in exams and suddenly is put in a place where he has to work with a Chinese guy and a Japanese guy and an American guy and collaborate with them and work together with them. So another trend that is taking place is young people these days don't want to work for companies. They don't want a 9 to 6 job. They want to specialize in an area and offer their skills to people. And these days, setting up a business is very easy. Just go on the internet, on Facebook, create a page, and you have a business, right? So you see a lot of young people. In fact, we work with quite a few such bright young people, who are very creative, who are very good in their areas, and they have set up their businesses and they do pretty well. So that's a new trend. Nobody wants to do the typical 9 to 6 job. They want to do what they love to do. So a lot of sort of change is taking place at the workplace, which requires skills, that can be on demand. Right. So Swati cannot, if Swati wants to become a social media influencer, she doesn't have 13 years to do a course, even 4 years to do a course. Swati wants to do it in a month and, start a career. So I think that's what's, driving a lot of need. So, these are the various trends in each of these industries. Now, if you see how they are coming together, okay, and that's the grand convergence that I'm talking about, and what will happen when this happens. So I'll spend the next couple of minutes on this. So the transition to the new model, I've already spoken to you about the emphasis on social, emotional, business, and work skills, right? And therefore, this is going to make it relevant. It is all about teaching relevant courses to students, right? And gaming, and particularly educational gaming, will bring in the concept of engagement with students. So to just again take the example of Swati. So Swati wants to do a course in social media, but she doesn't want to sit in front of a computer 2 hours every day and listen to a boring video, right? She's unlikely to complete it. I mean, many people actually sign up for these courses. The completion rate of these courses is less than 10%, by the way. Okay. So, so Swati wants to be engaged. Swati wants to, okay. So she joins a course which is completely gamified. She's actually playing a game, and suddenly at the end of it, she's learned everything about social media. So that's engaging, and that's what is going to happen as far as education courses are concerned. And finally, of course, online learning, the better it gets, it provides access, it's affordable, and it's convenient. You can do a course at any point in time. So what we will see in education system in the future is entirely student-centric, and this is a big one. Today, if you want to do a course, you go to an institute which already has a set of courses which you choose from. Right? A true student-centric model is where you can choose what courses you want to do, okay, from a very different number of things, and put a course for yourself. It's like actually making a pizza, right? Different toppings, different bases. You actually get to make your own course. That's truly student-centric, and that's where we are moving to. And an on-demand educational system. So you don't have to wait for an institute to start a course. You can start it tomorrow morning if you want it. Okay, so that's another one. It's on demand, and whenever you want to do, whenever you have free time to do it, you do it. And it is engaging. That's very important. It makes it interesting. You would like to complete it. It is quick. It doesn't take you years. It's just a few days, and you learn a skill, and it is affordable. Right? So you're going to move to that. This is where we are moving. In fact, in many parts of the world, this is already true. In the US, college admissions have dropped by almost 15%. Because all these kids now, instead of going to a college, a typical college education in the United States costs roughly about $100,000. That's about a crore odd, right? Now, students don't want to spend that kind of money. Instead, they're jumping to online options where, the moment they finish high school, they go pick up these courses, start their own business, or start working for companies. Many US employers have now dropped the requirement for a graduate degree. All they want to see is whether you have a skill or not. Okay. Hopefully that happens in India. Our own employers, start to sort of not emphasize so much on degrees, but then focus more and more on the skills that people have. So this is already a transition that's taking place in the States and in many other parts of Europe, and it will spread through the rest of the world very soon. So what could it look like, right? I mean, this kind of a transition, this kind of an ecosystem, what could it look like? Let's take a typical student. I mean, let's continue with the example of Swati. So Swati has basic numeracy and literacy skills. So she's gone to school. She knows how to read, write, and do maths, right? So that's basics. But then, given her choice of becoming a social media influencer, she picks up a course on creativity, on digital marketing, on social media, copywriting, video making, and social and business competence. Does all these courses, and great, there you are. She's ready to launch her career in social media. So that's the way it's going to be. And there you see the example of the pizza. That's how it's going to be. I mean, in the future. So given this, the new ecosystem, who would be the people in the new ecosystem? Currently, we are used to, institutions, colleges, universities, schools, and so on. But in the new ecosystem, you would have subject matter experts who would write the content. I mean, somebody told me that all content that had to be written is already available on the internet. They couldn't be more wrong, right? There is progress taking place all the time, and we need people who know a subject extremely well to write the content for it so that other people can learn, right? So that's one big requirement. So those of you who would have expertise, real expertise in a given area, even law, okay, even it doesn't matter which subject, as long as you have expertise, you're state of the art in that space, you would be in demand by companies who are looking to create a course in that area. The second is educational game developers. That's an industry which is going to explode, and people who can visualize and write and create such games would be in great demand. Even those companies would itself be in great demand. So any entrepreneurs out there, anybody who wants to set up a new company, this could be a space that you may want to look at. And then there are those technology providers. I talked to you about all of that, artificial intelligence and facial recognition and things like that. So anything that you can develop which allows to enhance learning could be a big win. So any of you technical guys out there with a creative bent of mind should look at how you can add value and perhaps create tools for this. And finally, without doubt, I mean, investors. I mean, we need this is an underserved business right now. A lot of money is going into just platforms. So instead, what we need is investors who can create the ecosystem and drive this ecosystem. Invest in companies who are developing educational games or subject matter experts and so on and so forth. So investors need to be there to do this. I'm sorry. So this is the new education ecosystem. And of course, at the center of it are the integrators. Integrators are those who would actually put it all together, provide courses to someone like Swati. So as our very controversial friend Elon Musk says, don't confuse schooling with education. I think whatever he's saying is actually coming true. He says, I didn't go to Harvard, but the people that work for me did. So that's what's going to happen in the future, right? It's about what you know. So am I merely talking, or have I done something in this space, right? So I'm the latter. So knowing that this is a trend, me and my co-founder Sandhya, we decided to form a company called Tantalum Academy, through which we are providing gamified learning, a completely game-based approach to teaching leadership skills. And this is for students, young adults, and employers. I mean, I'm not going to take you through a great detail about Tantalum. I mean, that's not the point. I'm just trying to tell you how whatever I've spoken about so far, we have brought it together in Tantalum as an example. So you see, this is the courses. This is what we are teaching in our course. it's an integrated approach where we are teaching emotional, social, and business competencies to our young people. So you see there are 21 different skill sets or competencies, and each of these are very, very critical to future work. This is not something that I have thought of. I mean, this is based on what the World Economic Forum and all the 3 or 4 letter organizations that I've spoken to you about are talking about, okay, as to why this is so important. And all employers would be looking for these skills in graduates very soon. They're already looking for it, and in the future this will become a big demand. So only those graduates who have these skills and can demonstrate these skills would have even a chance in the job market. Okay, if you just go with a degree, I mean, good luck to you. Yeah. So now what we have done is that we've basically brought together technology. So we've obviously created an app. You can see just a few screenshots. The app hosts all the content that is necessary, and you can understand the content through our app. So there are videos, there are quizzes, there is interesting things on there which allows you to learn about these competencies that I just mentioned. And we have a purpose designed game in which you get to practice whatever you have learned through our app. So it's the course runs over a 10-day period, and sorry, just give me a second to take a sip of water. Over a 10-day period, you get to play the game. You're actually playing a game. You're actually not doing any serious learning. There is no instructor telling you what these things are. You're learning everything on your own by playing a game. It's very interesting. Our students never miss a class. Never. Okay. In fact, we schedule something for 1 hour. Our students want an extension every single time. How often have any of you wanted your class teacher to extend the class time? Think about it. Okay. But every student in our class wants the class to be extended because they enjoy the program so much. So that's the difference, and they learn quite a lot. So each student at the end of it clearly gets a report of what it is that they have learned, and at to what degree. It's an individualized report that we give to each student who is in our course. And we've had people who are 16 years old to our oldest student right now is 45 years old, who's doing the same course and equally enjoying it. The reaction is absolutely equally.
Mithun sir? Mithun sir, you are not audible. Yeah.
Can you see?
Yes.
Sorry, Swati. I mean, the slight dip in the Wi-Fi here. Sorry. We sometimes still struggle with the basics here with the internet speed. Anyway, so my final slide before we go on to the Q&A is our course is designed in such a way that there are 3 levels to the course, and each level is designed around a game. So you join level 1, you play a game, you go into level 2, which is a much more complex game, and so on and so forth. So it's leveled up. So we are able to teach you these competencies over a period of time and reinforce them to you. So we've had a great deal of success with this so far, and we look forward to making this a huge success with all your blessings. I think I've already taken a lot of my time, so now I'll allow for Q&A.
Thank you, sir. That's a very, very deep concept and very interesting way of learning. So as you've mentioned, the skills that are required, what according to you would be the most significant skills for the future?
I think there are 4 areas, Swati. that I think are very, very important. And I think there is my request to all who are watching this video. Many of you would be parents or would know people who are parents, to pass it on. Is emotional, social, business, and work-related skills. I mean, if you simply remember these 4 words, then it is very simple. There is an emotional development of children that is very important. Social development of children, which is their ability to build relationships and be comfortable in societal settings. Business competencies, solve problems on their own, take decisions on their own, things like that. Also, their ability to understand money, cards, economics. These are very real business competencies. And the 4th is work-related skills. They being able to use tools to do certain things, basic electrical skills, mechanical skills, digital skills, and so on. These things are very, very important.
So, having said about educational gaming,
Yeah.
how would you differentiate between traditional gaming and educational gaming?
Give me a second, please. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
So sorry for that. Yeah, there is a big difference between both, right? So traditional gaming has largely focused on, you entertainment. It is the sole purpose of that is entertainment. So whether it is you going on a mission, fighting wars, whatever it is. Educational gaming is focused on teaching you certain skills. So it's a very, very different concept. So I can teach you science and maths and whatever else through a game. Okay, so the design of such games are significantly different from traditional gaming. So there are entirely different companies which do educational gaming and entirely different companies which do mainstream gaming.
So, what actions do you recommend educators must take right now?
That's a very good question, Swati. I think education systems have to be at the forefront of doing this. I think I would sort of request them to do 2 things. One is to spread the awareness amongst parents. A lot of our emphasis is still very much on subject-based grades. We are still too obsessed with ranks and which university students go to. We're very obsessed with that. We're creating a lot of pressure on students for nothing. It actually doesn't mean anything in the future. So I think this awareness needs to go from the educational institute itself. Unfortunately, many of them actually are entirely designed for that. I mean, they promise the parent that and create that kind of expectation that the student has to earn this kind of grade or this kind of rank. And I think that's the first thing that needs to change. To focus on holistic development of children. The second is the education institutions themselves should do it. Start to teach the young people, just not subject rote memory learning, but all of the skills that I'm talking to you about. Just not say it, just actually teach it in real life. And educators themselves, teachers, for instance, their role is going to significantly change in the future. If instruction per se is going to vanish very soon. Instead, teachers will need to learn to observe students, give feedback, and observe behavior. Learn to play games. So teachers themselves have to learn a lot. They are not used to all this. Most teachers, we have interacted with teachers all over the world. I was working earlier for a very big schooling company, and teachers don't play games. Okay, other than simple games, they don't play much. They don't understand gamification. They're not used to observing students. They're very subject focused. Right? They're not very comfortable with technology. So these kinds of things have to change. Right? They have to learn some of these things very quickly. if they want to be relevant and be there in the future. So these are the two, three things that I would advise education institutions to do.
Right. So any opportunities that investors should be looking out into this field?
So I think there's a bunch of opportunities for investors right now. So I think most are very focused on educational technology platforms. My request to them is to look at also educational gaming as a very big industry. It's really going to explode. Unfortunately, it's underserved. Quite a few of my friends have started educational gaming companies and have struggled to find good investors. I don't understand why. But I think that's a big space that they must look at. They must also focus on the integrators, people who are able to put all of these things together and offer a course like this to students. So I think that's going to be huge. So I think investors have a very big opportunity here. Even the technology is that I was talking to you about, educational technology, back-end education, that's a huge space, and they can invest in companies which are doing that. Again, I know quite a few such companies who are dabbling in this space and struggling for resources. I think investors should look at that as well.
Right. So in your presentation, you had mentioned an ecosystem. So what would be the catalyst for bringing this ecosystem together?
Yeah, thanks. That's a very nice question. I think what's happening is that people in the ecosystem, like education institutions, everybody is in their own singular mindset. Educational institutions don't feel the need to talk to subject matter experts. I don't know how many educational institutions have reached out to you or Aniruddha ever, saying, my students need to learn the basics of law. So why don't you come and teach, right? Has anyone ever reached out to you? So they don't think it is necessary that, our children need to understand a little bit of law, for instance. Okay. So everybody operates in silos. So gaming companies are developing games on their own. Okay. Even educational games. And they don't think it is necessary to collaborate with education providers. Technology guys are going on their own and developing technologies without getting inputs from educators themselves. They develop a technology, then try to take it to the market. So I think the everybody in the ecosystem needs to develop this mindset that they cannot survive without each other, and they need to start collaborating and work with each other. I think this is a big mindset shift that entrepreneurs need to develop. They need to look out actively for collaborations and pool resources together to make this happen. Any one of us trying to do this on its own, it's not going to work. Okay, so I think that's the first one, and the second is investments. There have to be aggressive, big-time investors who look at creating this ecosystem. Just not say, okay, I'll only invest in, let's say, an education company or a gaming company. Investors could say, okay, let me invest in a gaming company, a technology company, and a subject matter expert company, and put them all together and make them bigger. So I think these are the two things that we need from as catalysts.
So how do you see the future of Tantalum? Like, what significant growth opportunities do you see for Tantalum?
Well, for us, we are obviously very excited about our prospects. We know that what we offer is already big in the West, North America, and Europe. Already, what we do is an industry which runs into billions of dollars, and the rest of the world is yet to catch up. So, but it is catching up. So we believe that we have the early mover advantage in this space. We are already ready. Other people are just thinking about doing this. We have already done it and already gone out there, and we already have clients. So we are a little ahead, and we believe that if we create that momentum, we should be able to capture the market and become a big player ourselves. So we have very aggressive plans to be in the West. Though we are India-based, we are tying up partnerships in both Europe and in mainland US. We also have aggressive plans for growing in Southeast Asia and India. So that's our plans. We're very excited.
Well, all the best to you for that.
Thank you.
Any advice you have for your, any fellow entrepreneurs who are looking to enter into this space?
Yes, I think I would suggest to look at not Me Too businesses. There are a lot of platforms, for instance, already. There are a lot of aggregators, content aggregators. We don't need more of those. Okay, we need more people to develop, for instance, educational games. And this is a new area, but a lot of people tend to still go with industries which are already there. So my request to them is to look at these new areas that I have just mentioned in my presentation, whether it is educational gaming or analytical tools to enhance learning, or even subject matter, to put subject matter together, to set up companies in this kind of space, and create successful businesses in this area. And they can reach out to us for collaboration and guidance. We're more than happy to do that.
Do any of the participants have any questions? I see that there are no questions. So I request Aniruddha to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Swati. Wow, Mithun, that was an absolutely eye-opening talk on the trends in technology and gamification, how the future of the education industry is going to look like in the years to come. This is what we always say about Saraswat Chamber events. There's always something new to learn. There's always a new facet to explore. Mithunji, on behalf of Saraswat Chamber, I thank you for addressing us today. We love your concept of the having education like a pizza, and rest assured, all of us will go home with a slice each.
Thank you so much.
We also wish you all the best for Tantalum. We hope you become as big a player and bigger as you wish to be in not only Indian market, foreign markets, whichever markets that you wish to be, and looking forward to more collaborations with people here as well. Swati, thank you for hosting this event wonderfully, and the questions that you asked gave us a lot of things which were left out of the presentation. So thank you for bringing those out. Thanks to also Saraswat Bank for being a support as always, and thanks to all of those who attended this event today. Before we sign off, a request to all those who attended, those who are not members of this chamber yet, please do apply for membership. We will get in touch with you. And for those who have missed this event, or you might have invited someone who has not come in, do let them know that the recording of this event will be available permanently on our YouTube channel. So do procure the link and share it with your friends. And for each member, a special request from my side, as I mentioned before, we are going to celebrate our second anniversary on the 12th of September. Do try and get one member each. So let us have a second anniversary with twice as members as we have today. Yeah. Thank you. That will be all from me here. Sandeep?